We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
I didn't get my...
welcome back from that short break. Good morning once again and welcome to the program Global Morning Weekend Edition on Global Television Abuja. I am Sadia Yakub and thank you for joining us this weekend. DSTV Channel 365 and Star Times Channel 276. Agriculture remains the heartbeat of Niger State economy, feeding millions, providing livelihoods, and holding the key to sustainable development. With vast arable land, major river system, and a growing population, Niger State has lots of potentials to become a hub of food sufficiency. But turning potentially into reality requires strategy, innovation, and commitment. Today, we will examine Niger State's strategic path to food security or food sufficiency, its challenges, opportunity, and pathway forward. With me is my guest joining me live in the studio this morning, in person of Engineer BASHIR, TANKO, JAKADAN, NOMA, MINNA, also Program Coordinator, Niger Food. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So nice having you in the studio this morning as we'll be discussing agriculture, Niger State strategic path to food sufficiency. So,
yeah. Thank you very much.
All right.
As you've mentioned, agriculture is one of our strategic economic backbone in Niger State. And with the coming of the present administration, the former Governor Umar Mohamed Bago, he actually keyed into and actually ensured the proper implementation of the vision of our founding fathers in Niger State, because they realized early enough that our key strength is agriculture. We have vast arable land where we occupy 1/10 of the Nigerian land mass, and we have two major rivers crossing Niger State, River Niger and River Kaduna, and with their tributaries spread across the state.
All right, so let's begin the conversation properly.
Yeah.
What's the current state of agricultural production in Niger State and where are the major gaps?
Yeah, the current state of production in Niger State in terms of crop production and livestock, we'll say we are not really where we are, because what we are doing currently is less than 10% of our potential. But within the past 2 years, we've been able to push through, see how we could lift our smallholder farmers, who form over 90% of the production, both in livestock and in crop production. So currently, it's not without its challenges, from the challenge of climate change, from the challenge of input availability, from the challenge of overuse, consistent use of same land, and from the challenge of insecurity in certain areas. But at least we thank God we are having a relief in that aspect also. So production, generally, we'll say we are not where we are, but steadily we are actually moving forward here.
All right, so how can Niger State better harness its vast arable land and river system to boost food production?
To see that land development is done, that in the past, in the 60s through the 70s, land development, you realize that we have some major irrigation facilities across the state. But that expansion did not really continue at the pace of our growth. So that's why if you hear our slogan in the advent of this government, we say Niger State will feed the nation. We cannot do that without harnessing, bringing more land into cultivation, providing irrigation infrastructure across the state. We all know the challenge we have with climate change currently. So these climate-related issues actually hamper production to a very large extent. So we have within growing season, within rainy season, sometimes you have long duration of dryness to 30, 35 days within Niger State. So with that, provision of irrigation facility is critical. And this is very, very expensive, you know, bringing more land into cultivation. By the time you say you want to develop a hectare and provide irrigation, you will be talking of between 7 to 10 million naira. So that is, and that is not easy. But yeah, despite the paucity of funds, His Excellency, the former governor, is pushing through, trying to get investment in that area and trying to equally see that with the little resources available in the state. And with the little resources available to see that, yeah, we bring more land into cultivation. Then equally, that is why he created an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, which is called Niger Food Security System and Logistics Company, to be the private sector driver of this, I will call it a big dream. So that dream of agricultural revolution in Niger State is being promoted and being piloted by the private sector in the state, that is by Niger Foods. So it's a step in the right direction. At Niger Foods, we are in our second year, going into the third, and at least the first 2 years we'll say is our formative years, but more investment will happen hopefully in our third year.
All right, before we move to the next question, I forgot to ask you this question.
Yeah.
What's the meaning of the title you hold, JAKADAN, NOMA, MINNA? That's in Hausa language, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
But some of our viewers are not Hausa, so can you just please tell us the meaning?
Yeah, if you look at my background by training, I'm a power system engineer, but I ventured into agriculture full-time. So I've been into commercial farming and equally working with smallholder farmers. So primarily my activities were within MENA Emirate, and being a son of the Emirate, so His Royal Highness the Emir of MENA, Haji Dr. Omar Farouk Bahago, observed me keenly, and equally I've really been under his tutelage and guidance for a long time, since while I was in secondary school. So it's funny you hear this. My first admission to Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, was to study agriculture. But at that time, I wasn't too keen about studying agriculture, because agriculture, if you say farmer, people see it as a low-level thing and all that. So I got there without even my parents knowing. I pushed and changed course to study electrical engineering because of my flair for mathematics and the love for tech. So, but going into agriculture full-time, really have been very, very successful in that area. And the Emir looked at, within the Emirates, you are the one driving anything that has to do with agriculture and all that. So he pulled me in, and this title came as a result of one of the community engagement we had at the palace regarding the special agro processing zone project at Minna Airport. Right. So I championed that and all that. So there and then a recommendation was made that, look, we have to actually recognize the efforts of this young man in saying that he drives agriculture within the Emirates. The title JAKADAN, NOMA, MINNA, the title Jakada, first of all, is only assigned to people who are very close, very dear to the palace, very close to the emir and all that. Because Jakada is ambassador. Wherever you are, you're supposed to represent the emir. So the NOMA was added to it so that, because primary occupation of people in the emirate is farming. So, and JAKADAN NOMA means ambassador of, or minister of agriculture for the emirate, yes.
So you're the minister of agriculture for
MENA Emirates, yeah.
So I think some of our viewers now are clear about the title JAKADAN NOMA MENA, and we have to bring you up for the program because it's an agricultural program.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move into our next question. It's about irrigation. You spoke about irrigation.
Yeah.
All right, so what role does irrigation play in achieving year-round farming and reducing dependency on rainfall?
Yeah. You look at, if you see agriculture as it is currently in these climes, you realize that one is an expensive venture, but it's highly profitable. So first of all, whatever you are going into, you have to find a way of de-risking it. So precision agriculture, as is done currently, is to optimize resources available and for better results, for better yield. So without irrigation, one, you would be, if it's during rainfed, during rainy season, you will just be at the mercy of what the climate avails you. So one, irrigation is very, very good because even within the growing season, you might have challenge with moisture, with lack of rainfall. So you would need that coping mechanism, especially as we are having climate-related challenges currently. So one, it provides a mechanism, a mitigation factor in case of lack of available rainfall within the growing season. Then secondly, again, you don't just run into cultivation for 3-4 months within the rainy season, and the other parts of the year you are just idle. People are idle. 1, 2, food sufficiency is not realized. The country is battling food security challenges because of low yield and all that. So there is no time that we need irrigation all year farming like this very time. So we need production to happen at least 2 cycles a year minimum. So, and without irrigation, that will not be available. That will not happen. Then secondly, again, by the time you talk of irrigation, you will now talk of conservation of both land and water resources. So equally in irrigation, again, you now start looking at how precisely you will be able to run production. How do you optimize the use of water, the use of resources, and even energy issues, because by the time you are irrigating large expanse of land, you might need heavy-duty pumps and all that. So if you don't really optimize or precisely have those irrigation systems available, it's a challenge. And we are lucky in Niger State to have rivers traversing the whole of the state. Everywhere you see large rivers and all that. Equally again, we have big dams. If you go to other countries, they deliberately create big dams across within large expanse of canals. I was in Egypt not too long ago, and by the time when we went around to see how the irrigation facility is, you could see deliberate creation of more like dams and all that, just to serve as reservoirs for the large canals that traverse the whole country. So we have dams. In Niger, we have the Shiroro Dam, we have the Zungeru Dam, we have the Jeba, we have the Kanji Dam, with large reservoirs. So both upstream and downstream of these dams, we have available water. So that's why when the farmer governor came through Niger Foods, we are now pushing for a deliberate creation of a long-distance canal spanning over 100 kilometers between Shiroro Dam. It will come through Minna and equally pass back through and go and return into the Kaduna River. This will bring over 100,000 hectares of land into cultivation for all year-round farming within this that catchment. So as it is, there is no any alternative. We have to go into all year-round production, and deliberate attempts and resources must be made available for this lifelong infrastructural development. That is what our children should come and see.
All right, let's dive into government policy. Yeah. How effective are existing government agricultural policies and the programs in the states?
Yeah. So when we talk of policy, yeah, you look at very beautiful policies are actually available, though over time some of them need to actually be reviewed, which in Niger we just had the Niger State Council on Agriculture symposium not long, of which a key component of that was to see how the existing agricultural policy in the state will actually be reviewed, and really that was achieved. So, but government policies sometimes it can be counterproductive sometimes for farmers, especially when it comes into food importation and things like that. You look at currently, yes, we were having shortfall of production due to high input costs, and as it is, we are now importing key commodities like rice, like maize, and all that too, and really is affecting our farmers, because though we can see clearly that going into the coming year, government really wants to invest more in input, such that the input cost will drop and production cost will lower. So with that, food importation would need to be discouraged at that point. But yes, it's a stopgap as it is currently. But that policy alone has really affected production. You look at this year, production was not as much because the price of commodities is lower, while the input cost is on the higher side. But overall, critical to the agricultural revolution in Niger State, the key policies and key drivers to that really are encouraging, and as it is with every program, you have room for improvement, which is what we saw in the last Niger State Council on Agricultural Summit we had here.
All right, so let's talk about the farmers. What support do smallholder farmers need most to increase their productivity and income?
Yes, at this point, I'm looking at two things. One, yes, the smallholder farmers need support in terms of input, in terms of fertilizers, agrochemicals, and all that. That's for crop producers. Equally for the livestock guys, I will come to them. I will come to the livestock, but let me finish with the crop people. So they need that support, but primarily, sincerely, is we need to invest more in infrastructure for these farmers, because with the best inputs and all that, without the enabling environment to produce most especially as it has to do with drought, as it has to do with climate-related issues. They can have the best of inputs, but they might not be able to achieve what they want. So that investment in infrastructure should be deliberate. We should be thinking of developing land in clusters across the country, not even Niger State alone, across the country. And we should equally be looking at how we can have all year-round farming through investment in irrigation facilities. So I see that as one critical thing that the farmers need. Yes, in the short term, in the immediate, they need input availability and quality input availability, and equally at a reduced pricing. Then for our livestock counterpart too, they need improvement in terms of the breeding. The breeding system should actually be improved. That is why in Niger Foods we're deliberately trying to see how we improve our breed. And improving our breed will solve two issues for us in Nigeria. One, it will increase productivity in terms of the milk and in terms of meat availability. But secondly, most importantly, it will solve a lot of security challenge we have in the country, because the current breed of cattle and livestock generally, cattle, sheep and all that we have in the country, you realize that they can walk long distances, and you see a cow of say 2 or 3 years compared to its weight might just be the same as 6-month-old of the hybridized breed. So, but the advantage of the hybridized breed is they are not tolerant to long distance movement. So by the time you remove long distance movement from our cattle system, you would, one, discourage cattle rustling, because nobody will come. By the time you rustle and they move 100, 200 meters and they stand and they don't have the strength to move further, you will not come next time to pick them up. Then secondly, the issue we're having with farmer headers and all that will be reduced. So in that aspect, you will have killed 2 birds with just a single stone. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about modern farming. How can modern farming techniques and mechanization be more accessible to rural farmers?
Yeah. So first of all, for modern farming techniques, and precision agriculture generally, we realize that what we need our farmers generally our farmers to do is to be able to produce more with less land, with less inputs and all that, but they should be able to produce more. That is what is happening globally. So one, they need capacity building in that regard. Then they need support. So if you observed 2 weeks ago, the JAKADAN NOMA Foundation, I have a foundation that I run to see how the aim of the foundation is to see how we get new people to come into agriculture, and secondly, those in the business to see how we lift them up. So I'm working with rural women. I've trained 62 2 weeks ago, but the target out of these 62 is to see that they step it down to 9 people each. So we'll be talking about over 600 women. It's specifically targeted at women with a few men in between. So now we've tried to build their capacity in vegetable and horticultural production. How they can, from just small space from their backyard and all that, they can be able to produce more. So capacity building is critical. Then secondly, we are providing them with the required inputs to do that. So you build capacity, you provide them with inputs and the small tools they require to do that. Then you are gradually scaling modern farming, or so to say, or what we call precision agriculture.
All right, so what strategies can reduce post-harvest losses and improve storage, processing, and market access?
Yeah. If you look at the area of post-harvest loss, there is one comment I do make. I say the first principle of food sufficiency or food security is to reduce post-harvest loss, because the bulk of the production we do is lost at post-harvest. Yes, post-harvest loss starts from the field, but from the process of harvest to storage, there is a very, very huge challenge. So if you look across Niger now, there are clusters of centers. Those centers are for drying, for drying and all that, because currently you see that if you are traveling across the state, you see women drying or men drying their harvest on the floor. One, we have the challenge of hygiene with that, and secondly, there will be a lot of losses. So investment in drying facilities is critical, then equally for storage. So in the area of storage, equally, we are actually looking at a situation whereby we can warehouse this produce for our farmers, especially the farmers we support. So we'll run something more like a warehouse service. They can bring this, then at the time they are, because we are off-takers, so at the time they are ready to sell, we would value at the prevailing market price at that time. We only charge them little for the storage. So this is one strategy of saying that we reduce loss at post-harvest. So Niger Foods, through AGRA and NIGER'S and AGAN, we had a training program 2 weeks ago also to see how it was centered actually around post-harvest loss, around financial literacy and access to finance, then also around the area of quality improvement. So the area of storage is critical, and the area of value addition also is critical, because by the time you harvest, you process it and all that. So the risk of losing some of these things post-harvest is reduced, is minimized to the barest minimum. So this is another deliberate strategy that will take time, but gradually we can be able to will be reducing that challenge, because as it is, it's as high as 40% post-harvest loss. Yeah. So if we can, for instance, if you produce 1 million ton and you lose 400,000 metric ton post-harvest, so by the time you can reduce it by maybe 5% annually, in like maybe 8-10 years, we'll have said, okay, it has been reduced to below to acceptable level, because as it is currently, it's not acceptable at all.
All right. Let's talk about women and youth. You know, we have some youth and some women saying agriculture is a dirty business.
Yeah.
You understand? Like you stated earlier, you said initially you don't have the intention of studying or finding yourself in agricultural field, but then destiny still finds its way. So how can youth and women be encouraged to see agriculture as viable and profitable venture?
Yes, the first step is in the area of mentorship. Now, symbolically and practically, when His Excellency Governor Umar Muhammad Babu was elected, he declared himself as a farmer. So that name, farmer governor, in fact, those of us into farming, into agriculture as our primary business, it was more like a godsend, because identifying himself as farmer governor, it now gave that profession, that business, that entrepreneurship, the space it deserves in the state. Because if the #1 person in the state says he's a farmer, then who are you to look down on farmers? But secondly, again, as a follow-up to that immediately, he now talked about mechanization. Because by the time you remove drudgery from agriculture, anybody can do it. But if people are still carrying hoe and cutlass and all that, or everything is relying on human labor, animal labor and all that, it still looks somehow. So, but with the immediately about 1,000 tractors and small equipment, including power tillers and all that, were brought into the state, which Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came to commission. So that gave us the first boost that we require. So we were able to pull more young people, because we have a lot of graduates doing nothing. Then again, they look at some of us. I have worked in different places, both in the oil and gas sector, and the last job I had was working with Transmission Company of Nigeria. So leaving our jobs about 8 getting to 9 years ago to just focus on agriculture. So it gives everybody that sense of feeling that, yes, this is something you will do, and you will prosper in it. So women and young people, it's really our target. We deliberately target them, get them to come into production. And that is why by the time you bring them into production, you bring them into something that they will do with fun. That's why the area of vegetable farming comes into play. And that is where, even in terms of irrigation, we talk about drip irrigation and all that. So by the time they come on training and they see how this thing is done, they now understand that, yes, it's something that is a technical business, so to say. So in Niger, we are actually pushing through to see that more young people, more women are targeted and deliberately to come into commercial farming, because we critical to this is for our young women, for our youth and women to see agriculture as a business. So that's why when they come, we tell them the first thing you do as you go into any other business is to look at the economics of production and profitability. So they understand that, yes, this is a business. It's not something you do for just subsistence, for survival. You might even be growing things that you don't eat. You might be rearing livestock that you don't even eat. Yeah.
So do we have youths going into it?
Yeah, currently a lot of young people are actually going into commercial farming. The challenge we had is, as I said, with the policy of the little window that was allowed lately for food importation. But we know coming into 2026 that would stop. So it actually discouraged a few people from investing in it in 2025. But at least now we have been able to bridge that gap. The cost of food has dropped, which was the target. So I know with investment in inputs and lowering the cost of fertilizers and seeds and all that, by next year a lot of young men and women who have already received training, waiting for them to invest their resources in agriculture, will do that.
All right. What about these youths? You coach them, like you train them.
Yeah.
All right. Do you give them any support, any package? Yeah. Or let me just say financial support to start to venture into this agricultural business after training?
Yes. The first thing is to train them. And immediately after training, and for agriculture, the training does not end. You do classroom, you run the field training, then you have to implement, you have to do it all. So without the initial support to start, it's difficult. So we don't give them money. What we give them is the required inputs to start. Right. So by the time you cluster them, you avail them seeds, you avail them chemicals, you avail them fertilizers and all that. And you ensure that they do these things as is required, step by step, especially during the dry season where everything is within control, is under irrigation, so everything is within control. So you can't just train them. By the time you train them and you let them go, not all of them will be interested in will even have the resources to do it. But no matter how small, as you train them, you give them the needed support in terms of the tools and the farm inputs they require to do that, then they can upscale. So that is more like their seed capital, because whatever they harvest and sell is there. If you now reinvest the money into it.
Okay, that's a nice one. Looking ahead, what practical steps must be taken to position Niger State as a leading food producing state in Nigeria?
Yeah, the first step has been taken, because as it is currently, there is no state that would say is the food basket in Nigeria apart from Niger. So, but we can have the basket kept somewhere, but we produce the food and we take it there for them to fill the basket. So the current situation as we have is we are actually leading in terms of policy, in terms of the will and determination to see that we feed the whole of Nigeria, because we have all that it takes in Niger in terms of the human resources and the natural resources of land and water to be, and aside that, we have good arable land to feed the whole of Africa, not only Nigeria. So we are already on that path. It's a step in the right direction that we have started. But as it is said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. So we've taken that bold step, and the former governor is leading in that regard. We are not saying there are no challenges, as with any program or project. You have challenges, but really we are crossing over that gradually.
So how can Niger balance traditional farming practices and modern agricultural innovations?
Yes. One is in terms of capacity building through extension, through deliberate trainings and all that. So, and the traditional practices we have, not all of it is not all of it is what we call, I don't even know how to, not all of the traditional practice should actually be dropped. There are lots of traditional practice that we do that are good, and that is why when you speak to our farmers, you need to listen to them, you need to hear from them. You will realize that our farmers are one of the best researchers you could think of. They might not be very much literate enough, but they do research every season. I will give you this instance. Our farmers might, there is an instance that a particular agrochemical is labeled for so crop. So when farmers are challenged, they test on a small portion. They will now test its adaptability or its effectiveness on another crop. So they might tell you that, look, this thing works as a selective herbicide or something for so crop. And you will say, oh, no, this is not labeled for it, but in the end, you will realize. So there are some practices that they do that is really good. One is the mixed cropping that they do, or rotational cropping that they do. It's good. So where we see that their practice is fine, we encourage them. But in terms of conservation of land and resources, yes, you see that the practice is a bit poor, but you find a way of lifting them up, getting them to key into the modern practice. And for mechanization, yes, there is no alternative to that, so long as you want to improve productivity. In fact, our farmers have embraced heavy mechanization for a long time. The challenge we had in the past was the lack of access to this mechanization equipment, especially tractors, because 2 years before the advent of the farmer governor, we had no tractors in the state. We sent agents to neighboring states to get tractors for us. For me, for instance, every season I use a minimum of between around 10, 11 75 horsepower tractors working for me for over 6 weeks. So by the time you do that scale of production, you start looking for tractors here and there, and when they come, it's expensive and all that. But with the advent of this government, we have sufficient tractors across the state. So you see that the complaint on availability of mechanization equipment is actually less. But as I said, it's a journey that we have started, and it's a focused one. God willing, I believe there is a ray of hope that in the coming years you will have improved productivity in Niger State and in Nigeria by extension.
All right. What lessons can Niger learn from other countries or states that have successfully improved food sufficiency in similar climates?
Yeah. So deliberately, as part of our capacity building program, some of us have been selected to visit many parts of the world. I've been to China for for over 6 weeks. I was in Egypt, and even our neighbors around Ivory Coast, Benin Republic, and all that. So where they are doing well, we go, we see what they are doing, and actually the implementation of it, phase of it, is what we're actually doing in Niger. So we've realized that deliberately those countries were selected because we have similar we have similar climate, and equally our culture in terms of smallholder farmer production is almost the same thing.
All right, and looking ahead, what does a food-sufficient Nigeria realistically look like in the next 10 to 15 years? Yeah,
our projection actually is looking at the next 10 years. So that's why you will see Dangote is coming in big time for rice production and processing. He will be handling the processing end with his mill that is currently being constructed, and installation is ongoing at Wushishi. So deliberately he came to Niger because of the focus, the direction he has seen that we have taken to improve production. So in the next 10 years, I see us not only feeding Nigeria, but will be a critical producer that will be targeting the export market.
All right, so let's go back to Niger food. Niger food, since you said 2 years now.
Yeah.
All right, have you done any harvest, production?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so before I finally let you go, what's your parting words?
Yeah, my message is to our youth, to our women, that for now, personally, I don't see any profitable and fulfilling entrepreneurship drive like going into agriculture. You get a lot of comfort from it. It's profitable if you do it the right way. But above all, you are part of a critical factor that determines the existence of mankind. So being a food producer, both for our livestock and for us as humans, it elevates you to that part of the chosen amongst God's agents on earth. So you get a lot of comfort from it, and in terms of wealth, if you do it the right way, you will be sufficient and you will be happy.
All right, so we've come to the end of this segment with our special guest in person of Engineer BASHIR KHALIL TANKO, JAKADAN NOMA MINNA Program Coordinator, Niger Foods. Thank you once again for coming to Global Morning on Global Television.
You're welcome, thank you.
All right, we'll be going on a short break, and when we come back, the program continues.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.